How's it going, everyone? Today we're going to be painting this Space Marine Intercessor in the Flesh Tearers colour scheme. This colour scheme can also be used to paint any Khorne model as shown here on this Chaos Lord and Juggernaut. We're going to be doing the colour scheme on the Juggernaut as opposed to what the Khorne Lord is painted, which that'd be more of a Blood Angel red. Once again, we're using the wet palette. As you can see here, we've got all the colours ready, and you can see the colours up above on the shelf, which will be all the colours we need for this red. I've base coated the model black, and we're going to start off with Khorne red. Now I've kept it black to give it a nice deep colour, because Flesh Tearers red is pretty dark. So to do the base coat, I've got a Start as One brush, but I do swap it out for a different brush as the tip's going on this one. I've watered down the paint slightly so we get a nice even coverage. This will take a couple of coats as usual. As you'll see, after this coat it leaves quite a bit of the base coat of black showing through. In this video I am just going to be painting the legs of the Space Marine, but eventually I will have the whole model painted. You have to keep an eye out on my Instagram to find that. That is on rickies.realm.of.color. As you can see here, we've finished the first coat. The undercoat is shown through, so we're going to go over it once again with a second coat of Khorne red. After a couple of coats, we've got a nice solid red base coat to work on, and we're going to start the shading process. For this, we're going to use a 50-50 mix of Galfor Black Red and Abaddon Black. I've mixed these two on my wet palette and watered it down slightly, so it should have quite a milky consistency. For the shading, I've grabbed a size 00 brush. You could use any brush with a nice fine tip on it. I've chosen this one just because it will get all in the deepest grooves. This shading will represent all the darkest areas that you'd have in the armour. So in the very deep recesses of the armour panels. Now I've got a slightly larger brush. I'm going to take that shade colour, I'm going to blend it in down the bottom areas of the armour. So as you can see here on the leg, I'm going to add some shadow just so it represents where less light is hitting the bottom of the leg as it will at the top. And here we go, all the shading is done. As you can see, it adds quite a nice depth to the armour. So next up, we're going to be doing our first highlight. This first highlight will be Wazdaka Red, and we're going to apply this using a size 0 brush. We're going to do a chunky highlight around all the edges of the armour. You want this to be your thickest highlight. When applying this, you want to start thinking about where the light is going to be hitting the armour the most. When applying these highlights to a slightly rounded object such as this knee pad, you can add a circle highlight. With that, our first highlight is done, and we'll move on to the next highlight, which will be Squig Orange. This highlight we're going to do with a size 00 brush, as we want it to be a slightly thinner highlight. As you can see here, the consistency is fairly watery. You don't want it too watery, otherwise it will run everywhere, and you don't want it running into the recesses. But you don't want it too thick either, otherwise the highlight will be too lumpy and you won't be able to get that nice fine line that you're looking for. With the squig orange done, you can see the armour is starting to take shape. It's got quite a bit of depth to it now and quite a lot of light reflection. We're going to be doing one last highlight to show off the very lightest points. For the last highlight, we're going to be using Angor flesh. Now we're going to be using this very sparingly. You don't want to apply too much of it, otherwise the armour will start going more orange. You want to keep it that nice dark deep red that Flesh Terror's colour scheme is. We're going to do small dots of the Angor flesh on the lightest areas of the model where we can imagine that the little light reflections will be. And this is what it looks like after this fine Angor highlight. Now you could leave the armour here, it looks pretty good, but we're going to do some optional parts now. First one being adding some battle damage. This will just be small little chips to the armour. We're going to do this using the Angor flesh and a bit of squig orange. These will be just dotted on randomly. Have a think about how the damage would look in real life. You want to keep it really fine. If you make them too big, it will look unrealistic. Make them a bit random. Focus around edges where wear and tear will happen the most. Now once your scratches are done, you want to grab your shade colour of the 50/50 Gaffleback red and Abaddon black, and we're going to apply this just above where you've done your light colours. Again, using a very fine 00 brush. Again, any brush with a fine tip will do. You apply this above the chips as the light will be reflecting on the bottom part of the chip. Now the chips are done, we have one last thing to do, and that is grabbing our base coat of Khorne red, and we're going to turn this into a glaze consistency. And as you can see on my thumb, it is nice and thin, it barely shows. It's just to tint the red slightly and get rid of some of the orange, so it's a nice vibrant red. You want to drag it from the top down to the bottom. You do this because the glaze will be a stronger colour where you lift the brush off the model. And there we have it. With the glaze done, the red armour is finished. Inside our light box, you can see how the glaze has helped to bring all the colours together, create a nice smooth blend, but kept it a nice vibrant deep red. I hope you've all enjoyed this video. If you have, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any more tutorials in the future. Thank you very much for watching.